What is up, college lacrosse fans? We had the PLL was off this week, so we're going to skip pro lacrosse this weekend. I didn't watch any. I am still rocking the Lyme disease, but I'm fighting through that. I got my trusty crutch over here. I'm down to just one crutch most of the time instead of two crutches. Apparently, Lyme disease brings with it knee problems, and mine is pretty brutal. So, and I'm wearing a dope sleeve under here that you can't see on my leg. So this episode, we're going to talk about the college game again. And I want to talk about three teams: Maryland, Syracuse, and Loyola. And I'm going to go through and I'm going to talk about some incoming guys. I'm going to talk about some of the recruiting woes for Syracuse. We'll talk about some of the transfers. But first, as always, a little bit of shameless promotion. I had talked about a little while ago, we have these Maryland flag shorts. This is the second edition of our Maryland flag shorts. That's the back, actually. You can see these bad boys. They've got a dope design that kind of goes down the front leg down to the side. Maryland flag. They've got pockets on the back. That design kind of meshes into the side and then goes down the back of the leg. You'll see we have some pockets here somewhere. Let's see. Oh, yeah. We've got pockets. Mesh pockets and everything, but you can get these shorts right now on LaxFactor.com. We actually have 4 pairs left in stock. We have 2 pairs of XL and 2 pairs of larges left in stock right now. So if you order them quickly, you'll get one of these pairs. If you want to pre-order for the batch that will arrive and ship early August, you can do that as well. Go to LaxFactor.com, and right from the homepage, you will see the shorts. If you just scroll down on our homepage, we have a launch into the shorts where you can purchase those there. Also, another little bit of order of business here is Ryan Taggart. You win the Little Brother of War t-shirt for your comment on the last podcast where you talked about how there was the Michael Jordan flu game and then there was the LaxFactor Lyme podcast. That was pretty funny. As always, we sell team gear too. Here's a reversible we did for a team a couple years ago, or actually 1 year ago, about state school valedictorians. This was for a summer league or a tournament. I can't remember, but we do team gear, everybody. So if you need team gear, go to LaxFactor.com. We also have swag. We have hats. We have shirts, t-shirts, everything you could want from a lacrosse apparel standpoint. So go to LaxFactor.com. Help us out. The best way you can help us, though, for sure, share this video, like this video, subscribe to the channel, get the word out because YouTube doesn't always do a great job at that. And we thank you guys for helping us get over 7,000 subscribers. And now let's get into this. The LaxFactor Podcast. So, first one I wanted to talk about was Maryland. And it's kind of Maryland by proxy of Syracuse. Syracuse lost one of their recruits here this week, another top 50 recruit. They've lost 2 or 3 of them, maybe even 4 of them over the course of the last year. And it's not all teddy bears dying and things like that. So all of the top teams in the country, they have kids that commit and they have kids that decommit. They have kids that show up and don't like their first year and then they transfer. Maryland's no different. Now, where teams do a better job than Syracuse, teams like UVA, Maryland, Dukes of the world, is they do a better job at convincing some of these kids to redshirt. That's been Syracuse's biggest problem. When it becomes apparent that Syracuse is going to redshirt a kid, oftentimes these days that 5-star or highly touted 4-star recruit, they're ditching to go someplace where they can play. And this is the case with the kid from Victor that just decommitted, I believe. But let's go back to Maryland here. A good example of Maryland keeping a top recruit and then redshirting said recruit is 2019's number 7 overall player, Nicholas DeMeo. Highly touted attackman, incredible lacrosse player. He redshirted in 2019 because if you looked at Maryland's attack, they were freaking loaded on attack. And that's a similar scenario in terms, Syracuse wasn't loaded on attack, but I'll get into that. So teams like Maryland, their culture is to the point here now where they can convince a top kid to come in and not play right away. Maybe some of these kids at Duke, at Virginia, oftentimes these kids will get midfield rotations. In Syracuse, in the past, maybe a spot on man up. I know a kid like Brad Voigt had been on the Syracuse man up team, I think 2 years prior to this season coming up, where he finally ends up being a breakout attackman this year. So Maryland, Virginia's, the Dukes of the world are just simply doing a better job of convincing these kids once they're on campus to redshirt. But that's partly because of the school where it is. I mean, who wants to go up and live in the winter hellhole that is Syracuse? So I think that's one of their problems. But staying with the Maryland theme here, one of the kids that I really like that's coming into Maryland this upcoming year is Ryan Syracuse. Now, I don't know if I got that name, Syracuse. which he should have gone to Syracuse with a name like Syracuse. He's a 4-star kid, and he is out of Georgia. So a lot of people, when you look at kids from non-hotbeds, but Georgia's slowly or quickly becoming a hotbed, he hasn't played against the best competition all the time, but this kid can ball. And what I really like about him, as I roll a couple of the highlights of him, is he's a Maryland attackman through and through. The reason that teams like Maryland, Syracuse, Duke, Virginia, Loyola, Penn State, the reason these teams do well is because they don't just recruit the 5-star kids, they develop the 4-star kids. And the Syracuse kid, or Syracuse, he's one of these kids that I think that Maryland could develop into one of their, like a Maryland, red blood attackman. And the reason is he can dodge and play well off ball, and he's kind of a lanky, odd dodger a la Logan Wisnauskas, although he doesn't have the frame of a Wisnauskas, but he fights like a caged animal, similar to like a Jared Bernhardt. So you look at this kid play, and he's almost like a perfect hybrid between Wisnauskas and Bernhardt. So I just wanted to drop his name here. Ryan Syracuse out of Georgia. Kid's a 4-star recruit, but I think that he fits the mold perfectly for Maryland. And the reason I bring him up is because these teams recruit players that fit their schemes better than anybody. And that's why it's not just that they're drawing the Blue Bloods. The Blue Bloods and the 5-star recruits, they don't always pan out. And that's been the case with some of Syracuse's in the past. Syracuse has relied off transfers. So kid to watch out for. It may take him to his junior year to get on the field. I don't know how his talent's going to translate to the Division I game into Maryland. I just liked the kid. I saw his tape, and I thought he was worth mentioning. Now we get to Camden Hay, the kid from Victor that just flipped from Syracuse to Albany. Ty Zanders reported it first. He decided to ditch Syracuse, headed to Albany, and that's a huge pickup for the Danes. The kid, he's an incredible attackman. Is it the end of the world for Syracuse? No. The kid wasn't going to get on the field. I hear a lot of people saying by the time he's on the field, I think he would end up coming in 2020. I don't know, spring of 2020 or 21. He wasn't going to be on the team this year anyway. He's got one more year, I think, at Victor, if I'm correct. But regardless, he wasn't getting on the field. Sure, people were saying, well, what about Rafis graduating after next year and blah, blah, blah. But that's not how Syracuse has rolled. You haven't seen a freshman attacker get on the field and get valuable minutes. Rafis did as a freshman towards the end of his freshman year. He started getting quality time. I know Solomon got a little bit, but mostly Syracuse has relied on their attack over the last 5-10 years even. They've relied off veterans and transfers for the most part. Dylan Donahue was a huge transfer that Syracuse had many moons ago, and they've developed their talent into attackers that get to play. You look at a guy like this year, like Bradley Voigt, who contributed but didn't play a whole ton, outside of man up and some pickup minutes here and there until this year, and he tore it up this year. Syracuse loves to develop talent. You look at the development of Nate Solomon. He ends up being one of the top, I'd say, 25 attackmen in the country by his senior year. Rafis had a down year this year, but I think he'll bounce back his senior year. But once again, he's another solid attackman that has earned his right to play. Syracuse redshirts a lot of guys, and that's been one of their problems. I think that a lot of these kids are thinking, hey, I'm from upstate. I'm a Syracuse fan, but I also like Albany. Kid from Victor. Boom. Let's go to Albany because he has a much better chance at playing at Albany as a freshman, and that's not even a guarantee as he does at Syracuse with a crowded. And people are going to say, what about Syracuse's attack line? They're not crowded. Who's going to be the third attackman? Well, I tell you, it's going to be either Cook or Dordovic. I think will be the third attackman. You're going to have a Rafis, Scanlon, and either Cook or Dordovic attack line for Cuse this year. So it's not a big deal. They lose this kid, yes, but they pick up Chase Scanlon. And then one thing that people aren't talking about is the recruit that they haven't lost yet, the JJ Lewandowski, kid out of IMG Academy. I'll roll some highlights of him as well. This kid, very much of the Chase Scanlon mold. He fits very well in the Syracuse offensive scheme. He can play off ball. He can dodge. He can pretty much do everything as well. He can shoot from outside, shoots well down the alley on the run. So this kid, a midfielder, could probably see time at various places. He's the type of kid that fits perfectly with that Syracuse midfield. And I think that he'll be one that will actually probably get time next year. I think that he looks a lot like a Jamie Trimboli in the sense of how well he dodges down the alley and shoots on the run. He looks a lot like these Syracuse midfielders that can just light it up from out top. The kid can, I talk a lot about quick dodges where he can catch a pass 10, 12 yards out, 2-3-step dodge into shots. So this Lewandowski kid's going to be the real deal, I believe. We'll see if it translates to time as a freshman because Syracuse's midfield is pretty loaded already. But I think that he may be able to weasel some time on that second line, maybe even the top of the third line for Syracuse. And depending on how injuries go, he may get time. He is a solid player, and he's a kid that, as Syracuse has been losing all the recruits, not many people have talked about the quality they have coming in. They have another kid coming in from IMG Academy, an attackman. I believe the kid from Vestal can ball too. JT, what's his name? I'm drawing a blank on him. But moral of the story, Syracuse is going to be okay. The addition of Scanlon just undid 2 years of mediocre recruiting. And I say that, but they've still landed some really solid guys. What I mean is, everyone at Syracuse wants that 5-star blue chip, and we haven't gotten that in a handful of years, but we have developed the talent we've gotten incredibly well, and I dare say they maybe are doing a better job recruiting than they have in the past, because you can start to see the roster depth piling up all the way through. We have talent in every class on this team right now, and you can tell, obviously, I'm a Syracuse fan for those that are just tuning in for the first time because of the Maryland plug. Before I get into any more, though, seriously, guys, Maryland flag shorts. Let's go. These things are sweet. You can go to LaxFactor.com and get yourself a pair. They really are nice. All right. Now I want to talk about Loyola. We talked about Syracuse, Maryland, what they have coming in, what Syracuse has lost and why. I want to talk about Maryland because here they lose Chase Scanlon to Syracuse, and they pick up Riley Sao. I don't know how to pronounce his name, sadly, and I don't care. They picked this transfer up from Bellarmine, who is a solid pick. Now, this does not replace Chase Scanlon by any means, but what it does do, Chase Scanlon's solid, and this kid is built in that mold. When you watch his highlight tape, I watched a couple of highlights of him playing at Bellarmine this past season. When you watch it, he's solid. The kid can dodge, the kid can shoot, the kid's good off ball, and he carries his stick even to a degree like Scanlon, so he does not have Chase Scanlon numbers, but then again, he played for Bellarmine, but this kid's coming off a freshman season at Bellarmine where he goes Bellarmine. I think people are going to yell at me. It's not Bellarmine. I think it's Bellarmine. I'll say it right. 30 goals, 9 assists for 39 points. So he proves that he can distribute a little bit when called upon. And he puts up 30 goals as a freshman for a Bellarmine team that struggled this year. I think they even lost. Maybe they beat Utah. Now that I can't even see, my brain's still not working. But moral of the story, Loyola, everyone's like, well, what's Loyola going to do now? They lose their Tuarton winner in Pat Spencer, so you can tell I'm not fully with it still. And then they lose Chase Scanlon. They lose guys to graduation. So what are they going to look like? Loyola's going to be okay. They have a lot of roster depth, a lot of guys that are just waiting for their chance to perform, and they will perform. But picking up a transfer like this kid, I suspect this kid will get time right off the bat, and I wouldn't be surprised if he ends up on one of their first lines, getting time trying to kind of replace Scanlon, because from a scheming standpoint, you take a player who may not be as quite as talented as Scanlon, and you put a player in who at least has that style and is very capable in the same ways, that's good for your scheme. And that's not a huge drop-off then. In terms of production even, it's a drop-off in terms of production, but not terribly. A kid that puts up 39 points as a freshman at the D1 level is always going to be legit. So Riley Shea, whatever his name is, he is a huge pickup for Loyola. That's just an excellent snag. So moving forward, what are we going to do here on Tuesdays? I'm going to be back doing shows every Tuesday. Probably we're going to mix it here. The just doing the Pro Lacrosse podcast has not proven to do well. You guys just aren't watching it. Everyone wonders why the pro game hasn't excelled and done well in the sport of lacrosse, and it's because even where we want to bring you information about it, people just don't care. They're just not tuning in. So I put that on the leagues, and I don't put it on. A lot of people say, well, if the fans don't support it, it's never going to work. Well, give us a product that we feel like we can support. Now, I'm very pleased so far with the way the PLL's gone, at least in terms of their marketing. I think the quality of play, is going to continue to improve and everything like that. But I think the PLL is the real deal. As I've said it, and I'll say it again, the only place I think they totally screwed the pooch on was not giving the team a region to call home, even if they only played in that region or that in their home base one time the whole season. Maybe they'll fix that hopefully next year. But moral of the story, we're not going to ditch the pro game. PLL was off. MLL, I didn't watch any this weekend. So next weekend we'll pick back up, and I think we're going to start doing a hybrid. I think we'll start covering some of the college game We'll talk about transfers. We'll watch what some of these new commits are doing in summer ball and talk about that a little bit. And then we're going to talk about gear and things like that. So that is it for this week. Short show. Thanks for tuning in, though. We will be back next week, and I'll get back in the groove. We'll get some more highlights to cut in. I'm going to, slowly but surely work this back in. But as always, get yourself a pair of these Maryland flag shorts. These are sweet, especially if you're a Maryland fan. I'm not. I'm a Cuse fan, and I, grew up despising Maryland, and I still rock these. I try not to go out in public too much. They even have the black drawstring, so that's pretty dope. So go to LaxFactor.com, get yourself some swag. Thank you for watching, and we are out of here.